Good morning and welcome to the Sapphic Stitchery. My name is Beanie and I am a knitter, sewist and all-around crafty person. I live with my wife, Bear, nicknamed Bear, in the wonderful Sussex countryside in a 500-year-old cottage surrounded by our 4 animals, 2 dogs, 2 cats. And this is my new knitting podcast, which I know some of my online crafty friends are very angry about the fact that we knitters seem to call video medium things podcasts, but I digress. I will continue to call it that just to make it a little bit easier for people to actually find me. I'm well aware that this first episode is possibly going to be pure chaos, and I hope that we will gird our loins and manage to pull it off. I have been pushing this to the wayside for a good 3 years or so and have... Whoop! Sorry, my cat scared me. Ellen, she dug her claw into my leg and it scared me. Hey, Baba. Sorry, darling. This is a great start, isn't it? Where was I? I'm hoping that we will have everything just come together a little bit more easily as time goes on. But as this is my first podcast episode, I've tried really hard to just go for it, because the reason I've been putting it off is because I am a perfectionist. I am the person who told my therapist that I couldn't possibly be a perfectionist, because if I was, then the things that I make would turn out better, and they generally don't. But here I am, and I have come up with some categories. I'm not sure if we'll actually properly get to them in this episode. So every time we will start out with the stitch and spill, which is meant to be just us sitting around having a little chat, just like we're doing right now. Maybe talk about what's going on in my life. You know, I might not be interested in that yet because you don't know my personality yet. You don't know who I am yet. So what's going on with this random stranger's life? Who cares? Then we'll talk project in the spotlight, which is what am I currently working on. I tend to be a pretty monogamous knitter, so that's not going to have too many different things going on. But I think today maybe we'll talk about all the various things on my needles, as well as some things that I desperately need to rip back because they're stealing energy from me. I'm mentally not there with those projects. Alan, could you? Are you getting some cat ASMR right now? You lucky devils. After project in the spotlight, we will generally move on to the acquisitions department, which is when, whoop, cat on the fly, which is when we talk about any things that have made their way into my stash, or rather our stash, because yes, my wife and I are both knitters. We both adore knitting. I also sew. I come from a costuming background and used to work in costume, whereas now I am a copywriter who makes clothing for herself and sometimes her loved ones if they ask really, really nicely. I am quite a selfish knitter and sewer. So we do share a stash, but we also try to keep that stash incredibly limited because it stresses both of us out whenever there are too many things in it. So hopefully you won't see too many acquisitions. I believe this month you will see the acquisitions of 4 skeins of yarn, spoiler alert, that I did not mean to purchase, that just kind of came home with me. And the moment I sat back down in the car, I was so mad at myself and so annoyed that I had done that. So that's why generally I don't do a lot of random acquisitions. Alan, shall we have a look at what else is going on? Oh yes, then we'll get into fibre and fiction, which is where I talk about what I'm currently reading and also potentially what I'm currently writing. I am a writer and let's cover up your bum, excuse me miss. I am a writer and I am currently writing on a novel. I don't know if I'll want to talk about that novel because it depends on my level of I guess balls. Like how I'm feeling, how confident I'm feeling in my writing that week. And then we're just gonna wrap up and that'll be that. I have included a little side note that maybe in the future we'll also have a little segment called Queer Craft History, where we'll talk about how crafting intersects with queer living, because I think the history of that can be really, really fascinating. Shall we dive into what's currently going on. So I'm currently knitting a plain home front blouse from Squidney's Vintage School of Knitting, and it is some very special dyed yarn, but it is one of those dye lots where you need to alternate them because it's a very small brand. I will tell you about the name of the yarn in a second. Here it is. It's a very, very beautiful blue. The colorway is called Denim, and I'm rather in love with it. Isn't it pretty? I really hated the color blue for probably the first 20 years of my life. And it wasn't until I was in costuming school and my friend Rachel pointed out that I kept choosing blue projects, and I realized that maybe I actually don't hate blue, and now I quite like it. So this is the Camel's yarn, which is inspired by Cornwall, and this is in the colorway New Denim, and it is BFL fingering weight, so British blue faced Leicester. Here's the pretty little card for you. Whee! Look, so much of not a perfectionist that I was like, I'm not doing my nails before I do this. You're getting me with bad nails and all. Anyway, so I'm working on this very simple 1940s blouse. I really like these. I use these home front blouse patterns as a sort of background to superimposing other things onto it. And then I kind of know what fits me already, and I can just take vintage patterns and put them on top, and it works incredibly well. And I think that Sydney did a marvelous job creating this pattern. My wife made me these little crochet baskets so I can keep my two different balls of yarn separate so they don't get tangled. So that's what I'm currently working on. I have another one of those home front blouses, but do I continue with this? I'm not sure. Basically, I had bought some sock yarn. I personally cannot remember the name of the yarn. I bought some sock yarn, and the moment I started working with it, the stripe is actually John Arbon, I believe. The moment I started working with it, I realized that it was just stretching out, and even though I obviously swatched, it's just looking ridiculous. So I've popped it on a cable, and I had tried it on, and it is ridiculously large. And I got so frustrated that I just tossed it by the wayside. So it's possible that I'm just gonna tear this back and harvest some yarn from this. But this was what it was gonna look like, but I don't know. I don't know why it does this to me all the time. Whenever I work with superwash yarn, sock yarn in particular, it always stretches out for me. So if you have any tips on where I'm going wrong, what I'm doing wrong, should I be swatching differently, let me know, because it's driving me up a wall. Absolutely bananas. Okay, so we've got that one. Wait, did I have something? I think I have another thing that I need to tear back in here. Maybe talking to you guys about it is actually going to make me brave enough to do it, because it's so close to done. But I ran out of yarn, and I realized that I think I might be allergic to mohair. So it is this Fable Knitwear Minerva blouse, held double. We're holding some John Arbon double with some mohair from Drops, I believe. And I ran out of the mohair, which is fine. I could do the cuffs and the button band in just the other colour, but now I'm starting to think, is it actually too uncomfortable? Or maybe not. No, it is. Oh no, that's horrible. So I've heard from some people, if you put these in the freezer, you can kind of untangle it and rip it back more easily. But it's so cute as well, isn't it? Look at that beautiful halo. It's so pretty. It's got all of these little golden flecky bits in it. But I don't think I can wear this. I don't want to say I'm allergic to it, because it kind of annoys me when people say they're allergic to things that they're not, but I definitely struggle to tolerate it. How about that? Can we put it like that? I struggle to tolerate mohair. And I think you sometimes don't know until you try. I've also heard some people say it's because it's a fairly cheap mohair, and that a more expensive mohair might be more up my alley. But when you've already been bitten once by the cheap mohair, how much do you really want to invest in the other stuff? You probably don't, right? You probably don't. Do I have something else in this one? Let me see. What do I have in here? Oh, yes! My other thing, where I need to rip part of it back. Not all of it, though. Those are the sleeves. We've got it here on the blocking board. It is the top suit section of Squidney's 4 Seasons, either suit set or dress. Looks lovely, doesn't it? Look at those. This is in spring. And let me get this off the blocking board while I figure out my life. Would help if I'd actually gotten... Oh my god, so many cats have laid on this. Disgusting. What is going on here? Sort your life out, Lena. Sort your life out. Yikes. Yikes. So, it's this little blouse. It's Shetland Heritage yarn by Jamieson & Smith in the colour Madder, and I got it on a big cone because I will be making a suit out of it. It is a very light 4-ply. It is comparable to the standard Jamieson & Smith, but it is more fine. Like if I show you, do you see how fine this is? And yes, it obviously does bloom in the water, but so fine, so fine. Beautiful though. Like I said, it is from Squidney School of Vintage Knitting, and it is the spring 4 Seasons suit. Let me see if I can get it over this. You're gonna probably see what my issue is in a second. And my issue is that this is just too tight around there, I think. Wait, now that I've blocked it, I'm a bit like, maybe it isn't. Oh, maybe it actually isn't. Maybe I'm lying. Never mind. I've been kind of ignoring it, thinking I was gonna have to at least rip back up here and drop this neckline a little bit more. But now that I'm seeing it, I'm not so certain, which would be most excellent. Let me, obviously it's over another jumper and I'm never gonna wear it over another jumper, but let me just try to do that. Problem solving together here. How's that for you? Maybe it's fine. Maybe it's okay. Oh my god, that would be great. Okay, never mind. In that case, what I have in here are the sleeves. And maybe I don't need to cry about it because I was feeling rather dejected. And I've got these little 1930s-y puff sleeves. And then there'll be a skirt involved as well. Well, okay, never mind. Maybe it's gonna be fine. I was gonna say this is another thing that I've messed up that I gotta tear back, and I was feeling a bit crap about myself. Maybe I don't have to feel so crap about myself. Lesson for the future. Anyway, that's everything that I've currently got on my needles in progress in general. I am going to go grab my accidental acquisitions. So welcome to the acquisitions department. I might pop in a little clip of me being awfully upset about buying this on the day that I did it. I think I freaking fucked up. Ignore the fact that I have just oiled my scalp and I look like I could be the love child of Snape and someone greasy looking. Went to the yarn shop. Went for something very, very specific because my great dear grandmama has asked for one of these scarves for the holidays, and I was like, cool, I'll make her one of those. I just need like a worsted weight, very soft yarn, because I personally am super sensitive in area and I wouldn't want to give somebody something scratchy. So I walk in and I'm browsing, and first of all, this yarn store did not feel very friendly. It just felt a little bit standoffish. I asked them if they have any knitting needles in 1.75 mil, and they looked at me like I was an alien, and they were like, no, the hours started too. And I was like, okay, that's fine. They're like, what would you even knit with that? And I was like, oh, you know, I make a lot of like vintage patterns, and I'm quite a loose knitter, so I need to go quite far down in the sizes. And fair enough. So I'm looking around and I'm thinking to myself, there's nothing here that I want for this. And then I saw these yarns. They were so beautiful. And they were so soft. They were so wonderful, and they were 50% off, which means, oh, we have a cat who wants to join us, which means that they were a tenner each instead of 20 quid each, which is still a lot of money. And I have nothing. Ah! She likes the little. They're only 108 meters per one of these. So I paid a tenner for 108 meters. And yes, all the colors go really well together, but I don't even think that's enough for one of these. So I just, I'm annoyed at myself basically, because I'm not a stashy kind of person, and my wife is always saying that we already have too much stash. And now I just added more stash, and lesson learned. I saw someone say the other day that, like, oh, this was an expensive lesson, but you know, people pay for lessons all the time. And I like that. That's what I'm trying to remind myself of, as I feel a little bit shitty about the fact that I did this. Talking about how the thing I bought it for, which was these little Miss Marple scarves, those little keyhole scarves that you can get, I was suddenly rather unsure if one of these was enough yarn for one of them. And I felt really upset about that. These are the colorways, and you might see a little spoiler. These are the colorways, and it is Rowan Pebble Island is the name of the yarn, and it is made with Falkland Island wool, and they are so soft. And I think they were over half price off at a local yarn shop, and I was so excited, so excited. They're absolutely beautiful, especially all together. And I really like wearing these scarves a lot, especially in the winter. I live in a 500-yard cottage. It can be tough, right? It can be tough. But I wasn't sure if I'd have enough. And I'm happy to say I do have enough. I could have even made it a little bit longer. I had a little bit of yarn left. Whoop, sorry, Alan. So I can make myself 3 more of these and then add them to my wardrobe. Because this year I am doing a no-buy in terms of buying clothing, which does include no vintage clothing either, no shoes, nothing. I have to just make do with what I have, and I'm running that from November to November. So I've done it for about, I think, 50 days now. I can, if I need something in my wardrobe, I can make it, because I can sew, I can knit. So if I really need something, I can make it. And yeah, so I'll be adding these to my wardrobe, which is exciting. Is that all? Ooh, sorry. I think I've got a more animated face than I realized. So for now, let's move into fibre and fiction. And currently I am reading Shrines of Gaiety by Kate Atkinson, which is I'm going to call it a Dickensian romp through 1920s London. I'm reading it out loud to my wife every night, and it is such a beautiful, like, bonding activity. We sit there, I read from my e-reader to her, she knits next to me, and every night we do about 2 to 3 chapters, and we've actually taken it out from the library. When she told her work colleagues about this, they were like, "What are you in Little Women?" And it's so fun. It's turning out to be my favorite book of the year, and I'm not entirely sure if that's just because the experience of reading it to my wife is so lovely and is so loving that that's kind of, you know, making me think that the book is better than it is, but also from a writing perspective, they are both plot-wise, and then there are these gems of writing, and it's just, oh, it's just beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. So Shrines of Gaiety by Kate Atkinson, highly recommended. Hope that one day I can be as great of a writer as that, because she's unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. So that brings us up to around the 21-minute mark. I hope that you've gotten some sewing or knitting done while listening to me. Thank you for taking the time to listen to the first episode. You know, subscribe, comment, save this video. I think any kind of online creator knows that those little comments really keep you going. So if you could let me know whether you like the direction that this is heading in, whether you have any advice on any of the projects that I was telling you about, whether you liked Alan's little cameo, let me know. I hope that you have a fantastic rest of your week and probably rest of your month. I'm assuming that I will see you back here in January. I don't know quite how often I will sit down to do these, but I hope it'll be fairly often. Bye! Have a lovely December.